Howdy folks, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, and we've got a fairly interesting one for you today. This is Huntyman in the Tier 7 Premium US Navy cruiser, the USS Atlanta. Now, let's get all accusations of bias out of the way right at the start. It's true, I love the Atlanta. I think this ship is absolutely hilarious. It's always fun to play. However, it is true that it probably requires substantial investment in captain skill points to really make the ship shine. Oh, Huntyman appears to have suffered from a near-terminal case of fat fingers there. He's accidentally triggered his radar right at the start of the match. Oh, don't worry, I'm sure that won't come back to bite him in the arse later. But anyway, the Atlanta. Yeah, great ship, fun ship. However, the thing about the Atlanta that makes it fun, its greatest strength and also its greatest weakness is the caliber of its firepower. These are 5-inch guns, 127mm to you Europeans. And yes, that's the same caliber main armament as the guns on most American destroyers, it's just that the Atlanta has a lot more of them. And as the enemy Ryujo is discovering to his cost, or at least his dive bombers are, all of these 5-inch guns also double up as anti-aircraft guns. The problem, of course, is that they are just destroyer-caliber weapons. Taking a US Navy destroyer 5-inch gun mount and sticking a whole bunch of them on a cruiser doesn't suddenly magically make them shoot any further. But they do have an incredible rate of fire, fantastic turret rotation speed, and because they're 127mm, you can take advantage of a whole bunch of captain skills to make them better. Unfortunately, you do require a lot of Tier 4 captain skills to really get the most out of the Atlanta's guns. You're going to want Concealment Expert, and Huntyman has that. You're probably also going to want the IFHE skill, so you can actually damage things with your high explosive shells that have up to 27mm of armour. And based on the damage that Huntyman is going to be doing to enemy cruisers, I suspect he has the IFHE skill. But to have your Atlanta with Concealment Expert and IFHE, that means you've already invested 14 captain skill points, and you're also probably going to want advanced firing training for an extra 20% range on these 5-inch guns, and I can tell you right now, Huntyman doesn't have that. This Ryujo really doesn't seem to be capable of taking a hint, does he? Oh well, it's his loss. Looking at what he's doing with his planes, I'm not even sure who it is he's attacking. Oh, 2 gun turrets knocked out. Yeah, don't worry about it. That's perfectly normal on the Atlanta. It's got plenty of spare turrets. Oh, and judging by the volume of fire coming in from the far side of that smoke screen, I think we have spotted ourselves an enemy Atlanta. Old sweats to World of Warships will be aware of the peculiarities of American 5-inch shell arcs. Basically, they keep going up and up and up and up, and up and up and up and up. And then eventually they come down, which means you can't hide behind islands when an Atlanta is shooting at you, not unless it's a particularly tall island. Also, the rate of fire. The ship can get anything between 4 and 7 of the turrets pointing at a target, depending on how you angle it, which means that you're looking at anything between 80 to 140 rounds per minute when the Atlanta starts shooting at you. Most ships in World of Warships struggle to do 80 to 140 rounds per battle. But not the Atlanta. Oh no. That Ryujo's coming back again. Who is he attacking? Oh, he's going for the Congo. Well, he's managed to get 2 torpedoes away. And going for the Congo kind of makes sense. And he is going to get 2 torpedo hits. It's going to cost him all of his aircraft, though. Oh well. I'm sure he thought it was worth it. Oh look. Enemy Atlanta in the open. And did you see those shots? What the hell was that aimed at? Because if it was aimed at Huntyman, somebody needs to go back to gunnery school, because they fell at least a kilometre short. Huntyman, of course, not particularly anxious, even though the enemy Atlanta is in shooting range. He's at the extreme limit of shooting range, and these shells sit in the air for so long that by the time they landed, he'd probably be out of shooting range. And not too anxious to give his position away while he's in the open like this. Of course, the best laid plans rarely survive contact with the enemy, and while I'm sure he'd have loved nothing better than to pop out around the side of that island and say hello to the Mars around the corner, The Ryujo just keeps coming back, and he just keeps shooting down his aircraft. Have you noticed the big chunky damage numbers that keep popping up with every long range and medium range flak burst? It's as if the Ryujo hasn't discovered what his WASD keys are for, and he just keeps flying his aircraft in a straight line, right through the teeth of the flak. Flying his aircraft in a straight line. Hasn't discovered what the WASD... You know, I think he might be a battleship main. Speaking of battleships, that Congo has been taking one hell of a beating. He's been getting focused not just by the enemy carrier, and Huntyman has been helping out with that, and is continuing to do so. Look at this. There are almost certainly torpedoes heading in his direction from the Mars over there. And unless I'm very much mistaken, and hey, it wouldn't be the first time, he's also getting shot at by the Koenig. Oh, yeah, okay. Yep, the Koenig took him out. Some good hits there on the Mars, although, Huntyman, with the Congo dead, I suspect you're next. Yep, Mars torpedoes. Now, oh wow, you see, don't get shot at by an Atlanta if you're in a destroyer if you can possibly avoid it. Now, you wouldn't think that the Ryujo... Ow. I think that was a salvo from the Koenig. Yeah. Wow, the Ryujo is and still flying straight through every flak burst. You'd think after Huntyman had shot down the first 22 of his aircraft, the Ryujo might have learnt his lesson. But apparently not. Well, he took a big old hit from the Koenig there. At least I think it was the Koenig, but he has now at least managed to go undetected. Or at least he's gone undetected for however long it takes the Ryujo to cobble together whatever scraps he has remaining into a squadron and send them out against him again. And here come the rocket planes. Are they actually going for him? They certainly seem to be heading in this direction. I mean, Huntyman shot 28 of this guy's aircraft down so far. No, he appears to be completely incapable of taking the hint. Let's see if he's learned how to avoid flak. Yeah, no. And, yeah, they all died as well. Okay, well, that was nice. Oh, but Jingles, who else is he supposed to go for? Well, not an Atlanta. The Queen Elizabeth is now in a nice little AA blob up in the northwestern end of the map. And the Queen Elizabeth has fairly nasty AA, but it's not an Atlanta, and he was sitting by himself for quite some time. I would have suggested that the New York that was following Huntyman around this side of the map might have been a slightly more beneficial target to go for as well, but somebody appears to have gone and sunk him. Which, if you ask me, is just downright rude. But the Ryujo is... Look at this. Now he's coming back with the torpedo bombers. But it's not just an Atlanta. Now the friendly carrier's gone and dropped a fighter squadron over here as well. So that's another entire squadron wiped out with a 0 result. And it's a good job that they did manage to knock those aircraft down as quickly as they did, because now Huntyman is doing the other thing that the Atlanta is famous for, lobbing shells over islands while remaining undetected behind those islands thanks to the extremely high ballistic arcs of these very lightweight 5-inch shells. And if there'd been any aircraft circling overhead, he wouldn't be able to do this without being spotted. They've got those enemy ships in the middle in a nice little crossfire, and the Leon obliterated that Miyoko in the turn, but they're going to need to keep doing this, and quick, because there are only 5 of them left against 9 enemies. Hang on a second, he's shooting more aircraft down. What? Really? You know, you have to wonder exactly what that Ryujo's motivation is at this point. Is he just doing... I mean, because Huntyman has shot down nearly 40 of his aircraft so far, do you think perhaps Huntyman has just upset him, and he's motivated purely out of some kind of misplaced sense of vengeance? At this point, your guess is as good as mine. Anyway. Ooh, here comes the enemy Atlanta. Torpedoes are out, but, well, a bit optimistic. They only have a 4.5 kilometre range. At this range, around 5 kilometres, Huntyman would probably have been better off switching to the armour piercing. I mean, he takes the enemy Atlanta out with his second salvo for his first kill. But the enemy Atlanta gets a second salvo off with armor piercing, firing at a broadside Atlanta at that kind of range. He would almost certainly have scored multiple citadels and would probably have killed him with a first salvo. He got him anyway, but it cost him around about 3,600 health, suffered from the second high explosive salvo that the enemy Atlanta was able to send his way. So, you know, not a huge mistake. If you want to see huge mistakes, just look at what the enemy Ryujo has been doing for this entire game, but still something just to bear in mind for future reference. Okay, bunch of things are about to happen. It's been taking a while for the enemy carrier to actually get the remnants of a squadron cobbled together and come back and try to actually hit Huntyman with something. And while the team are still outnumbered, there are a couple of enemy ships on very low health ripe for the killing. First salvo into the Mars, knocks out a gun turret, disables his engine, second salvo out at the Atlanta, and then Leon just basically turns broadside in front of the Mars and eats all of his torpedoes. Huntyman takes out the Atlanta, and the Ryujo has managed to cobble together the scraps of a dive bombing squadron just in time to get them all shot down again. Huntyman has now shot down 40 of that guy's aircraft. In fact, he's even telling his friendly carrier in chat, don't waste your carriers. Carriers? Sorry, don't waste your fighters. Trust me, I've got this. So, because he has. He absolutely has. You try telling that to the enemy Ryujo player, however. Right now, his torpedo bombers haven't worked, his dive bombers haven't worked. He's coming back with the rocket attack planes. Huntyman, however, has slightly more important things to worry about because his team are being capped. And once again, he's in the ideal position to do something about it. Parks behind the island, completely undetected, raining death and destruction down on the enemy Koenig. Luckily, it's only tier 5, it doesn't have that much in the way of deck armor, and he is actually able to do some consistent damage too. But hold on, what's this? Anti-aircraft guns firing. Detected from the air again. Yep, it's the Ryujo again. He manages to get one rocket salvo off. Doesn't really do an awful lot of damage. Didn't really get a look at how many aircraft were in that squadron, but he shot 2 of them down, so maybe only 2. He needs to finish this Koenig off. Now, the Koenig is the one that did do a not insubstantial amount of damage to him earlier. And there are shots incoming. This could be nasty. The Koenig is theoretically capable of citadeling an Atlanta at any angle, but I think we can hang on a second. Okay, look, there are more aircraft coming in. It's a torpedo bomber squadron. I don't know how many aircraft are in that squadron, but he shot 3 of them down and then the squadron disappeared. So I'm going with 3 aircraft in the squadron. That Ryujo is really having to scrape the dregs from the bottom of the barrel at this point to actually get any aircraft into the air. Huntyman has shot so many of them down. Meanwhile, that Mars appears to be the last... Okay, well, whoa, no, that's it. He was the last enemy ship in the cap circle. But now the cap is clear. And while they haven't quite managed to level the scores because, well, it's standard battle and they're behind on ships, they're not that far behind on ships anymore. It's 3 versus 4, and at least one of the 4 in the enemy team doesn't appear to know how to do anything other than throw planes against an air defense cruiser while flying them all nice and straight and level. And we haven't actually seen much of anything from that Ryujo for a good couple of minutes now, probably because he's sitting there waiting for his aircraft to replenish and recycle. And oh, hang on a second, no, there's a squadron of rocket planes. There's only 3 of them. And yes, he's going for Huntyman again. We've lost them behind the island, but just pay attention to the map, because this is actually quite funny. Okay, they're spotted. The AA guns are opening up, and suddenly a red circle appears on the map in the location of the rocket planes. The Ryujo just dropped a fighter combat air patrol. Why? There were only 3 aircraft in the rocket attack plane squadron. Huntyman chewed through them, and then he just as quickly chewed through all the fighters as well. He actually got 6 kills out of that 3 aircraft rocket attack plane squadron. Why would the Ryujo feed him extra aircraft kills? What was the purpose of dropping the fighter squadron? Did he think they were going to keep Huntyman spotted when he lost his rocket attack planes? Because if you're planning on losing all 3 of your rocket attack planes, what makes you think the fighters are going to survive? I don't know. I'm just guessing here. I'm just trying to make sense of it all. If you've got any better ideas, I would love to hear them. Honeyman is in a very precarious position here, of course. He's got a King George V on one side, hungry for the kill. He's got a Queen Elizabeth on the other side, equally hungry for the kill. And, hang on a second, are those anti-aircraft guns firing? Yep. Torpedo bombs this time, lasted about as long as everything else that the Ryujo has thrown against Huntingman. However, this time, you see, it turns out that if you throw enough shit at the wall, some of it's gonna stick. He did manage to get one torpedo away. And while it wasn't enough to sink him, Huntingman has to be feeling very, very nervous right now. Except, the King George V isn't actually shooting at him. He's going after the friendly carrier. Well, that's the kind of mistake that you only really get to make once when there's an Atlanta shooting at you. And you may have noticed the sweet music of the anti-aircraft guns lighting up again, and you may also have noticed the momentary appearance of yet another red blob on the map, signifying a fighter squadron dropped where the dive bombers were before they all got slaughtered without doing any further damage. Yep, it's another 6 kills. And the King George V is probably... well, he's probably regretting his hasty decision to go after the Ryujo. I mean, yeah, he sank the Ryujo, but... oh, speaking of Ryujos... at this point, I really don't think there's anything more I can add to the commentary. We're just going to laugh. Okay. But yes, the King George V did sink the Ryujo, but, well... just exactly how much damage is a Tier 6 aircraft carrier going to do to a Tier 7 battleship anyway? Probably a damn sight less than the Atlanta just did while he was focusing on killing that carrier. Oh, look, he's back for more. Is he actually... no, didn't get any torpedoes away. Well, thanks for turning up. That Queen Elizabeth is still on the other side of the island, by the way. And don't forget, while all of these guys have been focusing on Huntingman here in the Atlanta and the Ryujo, that New Orleans up there has just been raining 203mm, 8-inch high explosive down on all and sundry. It looks like the New Orleans has the Queen Elizabeth's attention now, however, and that's great news for Huntingman. Yes, there are more aircraft coming. No, we don't care. At this point, it's just gone beyond a joke. The New Orleans just took a nasty chunk of fire there through the bows from the Queen Elizabeth's 15-inch guns. Yeah, more aircraft. We really don't care. Which means it's up to Huntingman to finish him off before that Queen Elizabeth reloads its guns. And he's done it, and there is the Kraken unleashed. 106,000 damage done, 70 aircraft shot down. Unfortunately, because the enemy team were capping earlier, despite the fact that both teams have the same number of kills, the enemy team are a good 100 points ahead. The remains of Huntingman's team, him and the New Orleans, as he slaughters yet more aircraft, barely have 1,000 health to scrape together between them. There's not an awful lot of time left. They're going to have to kill everything on the enemy team in order to win, or cap. But there isn't enough time to get to the enemy cap circle, which means Huntingman's going to have to divert in the direction of those enemy aircraft and attempt to find and kill the Ryujo. The New Orleans has what's probably a far tougher job. He's got to divert north, and he knows what he needs to do, and he is in fact doing it, in an attempt to track down, locate and sink the other surviving ship on the enemy team, the Mutsuki Destroyer, who hasn't been seen for the last 11 minutes, and as far as we know, may very well be AFK hiding behind an island somewhere. And they're going to have to do both of these things in less than a minute. So, there's a very old expression in the English language. You may have heard it before, and before this battle ends, you're going to hear it again. While I've been having a pretty good laugh at that Ryujo on the enemy team, and I'm fairly sure Huntingman has, and I'm equally sure most of you have too. There he is, as Huntingman demolishes the remains of yet another one of his squadrons. There he is. He's pinned him with his radar, and he's finally able to start shooting at the Ryujo itself rather than just slaughtering all of its aircraft. But the Ryujo is on full health, and there are less than 30 seconds of this game remaining. And while Huntyman is certainly entitled to have a good chuckle at having slaughtered 75 of this guy's aircraft, the Ryujo's going to get away intact, which means he's going to win, which means he's going to have the last laugh. And as we say in England, he who laughs last, laughs longest. And on that somewhat unexpected bombshell, that's it for today. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, take care, and I'll catch you next time.